Now we're going to call the main speaker of the day, which is our General Secretary. We all know him, hailing from the ranks of the youth in Katlehong, in Thokoza, in the East Rand. We all know him as an MK combatant, one of the young lions, growing up the ranks of the South African Communist Party, moving all over the country, organizing for the Communist Party, ending up being the Deputy General Secretary. And today, he is the General Secretary, fearless, brave, and honest to what he believes in. Comrade Mapaila, deliver the message of the day about Joe Slovo.
Amandla, Matla, Amandla, long live, long live, long live the Alliance, long live. Viva the SACP, viva! Viva the ANC, viva! Viva Kosato, viva! Viva Sanko, viva! Long live the Alliance, long live! Forward to socialism, forward! Down with capitalism, down! Down with capitalism, down! Thank you very much, Comrade Program Directors. Comrade Tulasinesi, our Deputy National Chairperson, as well as Dr. Mandla Khatebe, Professor Khatebe, our Provincial Chair here in Gauteng, for running our program. Comrades, let me start by extending our greetings to all of you who are here today and greet the leadership of our movement present here, starting with President Cyril Ramaphosa, President of the African National Congress, as well as President of our Republic, I want to say that, Comrade President, you have joined President Mandela, who came here as well. Yes, President Mandela did arrive when we were celebrating the memory of B3 that have given us support unwaveringly every year. Let me also greet the leadership of the Communist Party, Comrade Joyce Muropa, our National Treasurer, Thomas Nenamali, kodwa uyazama. Na wonke amalungu ama-NOPs we-Communist Party, Comrade Mapaila Masuku, our first Deputy General Secretary, as well as Comrade Julius Ngesi, our Deputy National Chair, Comrade David Masondo, our second Deputy General Secretary. Our National Chair is not okay. We want to wish him speedy recovery. He's seeing a specialist today. And all members of our Central Committee that are present here, and our provincial leadership from various provinces, especially our host province, led by Comrade Jacob Mamabulo, Minashuru, and members of the PC here in Gauteng, and the rest of the Gauteng leadership structures, especially our district here in Ligajabani, led by Comrade Africa. We also greet the leadership of the ANC, members of the National Executive Committee, as well as the chairperson of the ANC, Comrade Banyaza, who just left to attend the NEC meeting that the President will join as well. We want to wish that meeting great success as they prepare for the January 8 celebrations, and also extend our special greetings to the African National Congress on this momentous occasion of its anniversary. Will be present in that anniversary, Comrade President. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Comrade Dada Morero, the Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, who is the chair of our ANCA in the region. We recognize you, Comrade Dada. We've had a brief discussion about the state of the city. It's a matter that we will take up going forward. Again, comrades, let me recognize the leadership of COSATU, led here by fellow fighter Comrade Mike Shingange, the first Deputy President of COSATU, and Comrade Duncan, who delivered the message on behalf of our mighty federation, COSATU. He's the second Vice President. As well as the leadership of COSATU present here, Comrade Solipeto, the General Secretary. I've seen the former General Secretary, Pakania, Comrade Becky Jalinjali. Yeah, he's here as well. All leaders of COSATU affiliates who are present here. And leadership of SANCO, Comrade Muloi, and the rest of the leadership from the province who are here, and national members of the NEC. And greet Comrade Nombeko, from Umkhonto Sizwe Liberation War Veterans. Commander Nombeko, thanks very much that Umkhonto Sizwe Liberation War Veterans continues the oath we all took to fight on behalf of our people, to be used as an instrument on behalf of the African National Congress for the liberation of our people. And I'm glad that MK Liberation War Veteran continues on this trajectory. Again, comrades, greet the leadership of our Young Communist League, all members of the National Executive Committee, National Committee of the Young Communist League, led by Comrade Mzwandile Takudi. Wonderful message, Comrade Mzwandile. Even the President acknowledged that this message is substantial. Siyabonga. I have seen other leaders, members of the Young Communist League, including one renegade member, but I like him. This one, Comrade President, is a medical doctor by profession. He's the only party candidate that was not a member of the African National Congress. I failed to convince him to join. All others belong to the African National Congress. We need a special session to engage in further as well, Comrade President. He's here. They are all greeted. Of course, the Communist Party of Swaziland, Comrade Mangoba, who gave us a message, and the President of Tudemo from Swaziland, Comrade Mlungis Makanya, who's also present here, we express our sincere appreciation. The ambassadors of our revolutionary countries, not every country is here in our activities when we invite ambassadors. We have the ambassador of Venezuela here. I was boasting to him that my speech comes from a cover of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. I'll be traveling to Venezuela tomorrow, Comrade Ambassador, to join President Nicolas Maduro as we inaugurate him as the democratically elected president of Venezuela. From the elections that were observed by our own alliance, the Revolutionary Alliance, and the alliance gave them a thumbs up, free and fair elections. In any case, Venezuela runs the most democratic elections in the whole world. They have got more elections than any other country in the world. And all of them peaceful, great. And the system gives you results instant. So what imperialism is trying to do is something we don't understand. But we understand because of the resources in Venezuela. I'll talk to this particular question later on, that they want to continue to destabilize that particular country. We also have here, comrades, the representative of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the DPRK, North Korea, as they call it. It's one Korea is divided by imperialism, who have created North and South, and they put a buffer of military people, over 50,000 US soldiers located in that border to divide one country. But there's nothing they can do. That country's independent, DPRK. We appreciate your presence here, comrades. Most welcome. We are very much free when you are here. Of course, Comrade Bassam, the Deputy Ambassador of Venezuela, who gave us a message as well, we recognize him. But it's important, comrade, that we have indicated here that we have got special guests today as we commemorate this 30th anniversary since the death of Comrade Joe Slovo. We have the families of our fallen heroes, the family of Comrade Banimulukwan. They brought the picture here. Can that picture come to the front of Banimulukwan, of Linda Jabani? And the family of Banimulukwan can come here as well as the family of Comrade Kinsibia, and the family of Comrade Linda Jabani, and the family of Comrade Tsepo Simudi. Now, I want to say a few words about all of these comrades. Comrade Banimulukwane lies buried here in the Heroes Acre. He was one of our key leaders in the special operations, the commander of special operations, reporting directly to Joe Slovo. As we know, the many battles that he undertook against the apartheid regime. His memory, his sacrifice, by his own life, it's something that we in the Communist Party shall never betray. Comrade Linda Jabani, that our Johannesburg district is named after, was commonly called the Lion of Shawela. Comrade President, your hometown. He fought the apartheid forces, almost 2 platoons. That's more than 60 police and soldiers of the apartheid regime for 4 hours, one cadre of the Liberation Army Umkhonto weSizwe, Linda Jabani. This is our hero. And we recognize the family continuously. Tsepo Simudi was one of, we call him the fighting commissar. His unit infiltrated the headquarters of UNITA in Angola. Fought UNITA forces, captured the base of UNITA. When they were calling for reinforcement from MK Comrades and the Angolans, the FAPLA forces said, no, it's not possible. How did you capture them? They said, no, we are here. He was among those combatants with Comrade ABC Showa, my late general. And of course, Comrade Dos Santos, at the time, was head of security in Angola, appreciated that achievement and recognized those comrades. That unit was given a special permit to be on holiday for a couple of weeks in Angola. So this is what the SABC and the media should be writing about Umkhonto weSizwe, the People's Liberation Army. Of course, these families, Comrade Kinsibia, just died a couple of months ago. Comrade Kinsibia, Comrade President, fought for the civic rights of our people. He was in the Soweto Committee of 10 with Comrade Tato Motlana, Mamu Ellen Kuzwai, and others. Recently, he was leading an NGO called Ilungelele to Human Rights Foundation. We were fighting against evictions. He was working from the SACP headquarters, only getting a stipend, not a salary. This program led to the victory against the banks in South Africa, which were repossessing people's houses and selling them for 10 rand and 100 rand after they've repossessed them. Massive injustice. He took them to court, and ultimately he won this in the High Court in what we call the reserve price judgment. In this reserve price judgment, it means if the bank is evicting you from your house, they must sell that. If they succeed in evicting you, they must sell that house at the market price and take their debt and give you the remainder of the money. In the past, the banks used to evict you, sell the house at the market price, take everything, and you continue to owe them. So Comrade Kinsibia won that important victory for us and our people. We want to thank you. These are my special guests today. You are most welcome. And this Comrade Kinsibia's wife in the middle, she's not that well. And we want to, Comrade Bendeza, Dr. Bendeza, go and talk to her now, give her details. I want you to get other physicians and other medical doctors. From now on, we are handing her into your hands to look after her health. That's a medical doctor. We send him in Cuba. He will look after you, Mama. Siyabonga Matabani, from the families of our heroes, we appreciate you. We appreciate the sacrifices of your family members, your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, and everybody who contributed to where we are today. We want to say to you, we will never forget you. And their memories will always be etched in our hearts until we have socialism in this country. That's the only true freedom a society can get. No bourgeois freedom that can guarantee the full rights of people. Otherwise, thank you very much. Now, having said that, comrades, let me first thank the President for arriving here today. Wait a minute, the President is giving you some shakes. Our media team, make sure that they are covered proper. I must also indicate, Comrade, that I did inform the President about this. I also visited the family of Comrade Solomon Mahlangu during this festive period. like Comrade Mapaila was given a feedback, we'll also process all the outcomes of the engagement with these families of our heroic guerrillas and fallen comrades. Sabon, Comrade President, thank you very much for the generosity. Comrade, let me join Comrade Jacob Mamabulo in wishing you in particularly and the masses of our country a very healthy, prosperous and peaceful 2025. We believe that this year things will be better for the working class and our people. We also want to thank all workers, particularly those who were on duty as we were enjoying the festive period, despite the mess that capital has made of our economy. We still find time to celebrate as the working class. All sectors of society, from the taxi industry, the police, the traffic, the healthcare workers, the retail and hospitality sector workers, the entertainment workers and all sectors of our society, those who sacrifice their lives so that we can enjoy our festive period as South Africans. And indeed, having visited these many families of our heroic guerrillas and fighters and fallen cadres here in Soweto and also in Mamelodi and other parts of the country, we will be doing so throughout the 30th anniversary of Comrade Joe Slovo, who was Chief of Staff of our Mkondo Wesizwe. Yes, indeed, Comrade Joe Slovo, Comrade President, you spoke at length about him. I'll jump some of the questions so that we don't repeat. But it's important to indicate that Joe Slovo was not just a key leader of our movement, was a special cadre who understood the general principles of front politics. We'll speak briefly about this question, particularly when the ANC developed, after a visit to Vietnam, they developed the Green Book. And he was actually one of the drafters of the report from Vietnam in what is called the Green Book. The Green Book that articulated the general strategy of the democratic revolutionary forces in our country, particularly about intensification of mass mobilization and making the apartheid regime ungovernable, and other strategies, the interrelationship between the military and the political and mass struggles. So Joe Slovo articulated that quite well. At the same time, comrades, when we were visiting some of these families of our departed comrades, we found that majority of them still live in poverty. Comrade Mapaila went at length to explain this. I just want to indicate that, yes, we're with the Department of Military Veterans that is moving at slow pace to look at the interest of former fighters, liberation fighters, both from Mkondo Wesizwe, as well as from other liberation armies. The manner in which these fighters who were prepared to die for our country have been looked at leaves much to be desired, particularly when government has allocated some resources. So there must be special attention to this matter, Comrade President, so that our comrades can be looked after together with their families. But Comrade Slovo dedicated his entire life to the democratic anti-imperialist revolutionary struggle of the people's liberation for a non-racial, democratic and peaceful South Africa that is equal across all sectors of society, egalitarian in terms of the ownership of wealth. In other words, where you could not see the difference between the rich and the poor in a country. That's what Comrade Joe Slovo fought for. Of course, He was inspired by Marxism-Leninism. And as he died on the 6th of January 1995, I personally was in the military base in Valmansdal. The Boer commanders refused us to come and bury him. I told him, I went to see the brigadier in charge. I said, if you refuse, know that I am going to his funeral. I came to his funeral from the military base. And that engagement led to the base allowing Comrade to leave to come and bury Comrade Joe Slovo. They were doing it deliberately, the white military bases. But born as Joseph Marshal Slovo on the 23rd of May 1926 in Obelay, Lithuania, Slovo's journey to South Africa began at the age of 9. And this, will, of course, will mark the beginning of his lifelong commitment to the working class and its struggles. Of course, here in South Africa, being a white person had many privileges accorded to all white people. But he came from a poor family. He started working, for instance, at the age of 16, at a warehouse, where he made the trade union movement, and actually became a trade unionist, and later on even a shop steward, and even led a strike. It was when he was leading the strike that the response of the management was to favor only white workers, that he decided to take further the struggle for inclusivity at that very young age. Of course, he will later live to join the army in the war, the Second World War, in the war against imperialism and against fascism. And this, of course, working in the factory floor, widened his deep understanding and connection between the national oppression and class exploitation, and to understand the source of all oppression, which is capitalism. He became a key leader, as Comrade President indicated, of our movement across the board. But when we speak about Joe Slovo, we cannot do so as communists. This is the most important task that we need to do even in our communities. We don't just talk politics without analyzing the condition of the people in that particular community. That's where we derive our program. Our program is derived from the condition of the working class, from the condition of the people. So party structures, branches, your task is not much to follow leaders. It's to analyze the living conditions on the ground and to respond to those conditions, to change them for the better, so that the people can live better. We are in a country that, for instance, many will say if Slovo was alive, he will use the same Marxist tools of analysis, the same tools that were imparted to the rest of the liberation movement, to understand society and how to resolve the problems of society. One of the current problems is that when we look at aggregate achievement of our liberation struggle, we always say this as the Communist Party. We are grateful for the achievement the liberation movement has made in this country. And we hope our people can also be more grateful, particularly the middle strata. At the same time, we are aware about the reversals that are taking place at a strategic level. The reversals that make this achievement minuscule. The reversal in which majority of our people live in poverty. Majority of our people can't afford just basic foodstuff on a daily basis in a country that is practically the richest on the African continent. Leave this debasing of the economy by Nigeria and even Egypt. The issue is that we are also the most industrialized economy on the African continent. Yet, our people survive on less than 2.15 rand, $2.15 a day, which is equivalent to 18 rand 78 cents as of recent. Now, no one can survive on this, particularly with the high cost of living in society. driven by factors beyond our control, driven by the imperialist USA, because the US, Comrade President, one thing that all people in government must appreciate is the fact that we never should compare how we run our economy with that of the United States. The United States runs the economy by corporations. They don't even have SOEs, state-owned entities. Even in the defense sector, they don't have. They just capture a corporation, give it money, like Lockheed Martin, that makes their fighter planes and everything else. They give it money for research and development and everything else, and say, you don't sell to anybody except to us. You only sell to somebody when we want you to do so. So they have no interest of society at heart as a system. The system is not meant for society. It's meant for corporations. And the corporations are, the state is just a mere procurer of services. In our case, it's different. We're an underdeveloped country. Siyawafuna SOEs are developing those zokuhlala. So that, for instance, take for instance, electrification of our country by ESCOM. It will not have been possible if we were in the US, because everyone will still have to go and buy on a private basis electrification of their houses. Before I came back from outside, Comrade President, you visited us in our camp one day. When I left the country, my family could not afford to pull electricity into the house. But the next door neighbor who ran a tavern had. Now with the state capacity, we rolled out electrification across the country. So that system must remain, and in other areas as well. We also need innovation and create appropriate entities. For instance, in this country, where we have got so much sea, we still do not have state control of fisheries, except by legislation. We can't feed our people protein, our children protein in the inland, because the entire fish industry is left to private capital. The state must play a role if we are to deal with poverty and innovate and enter those spaces and not leave everything to capital. Because capital doesn't care for the people except for profit for themselves. At the same time, Comrade President, the working class is living under a super burden of exploitation by capital. The state that you lead cannot observe the hardening conditions of the workers and the people of our country. So that is why, for instance, the state must find a mechanism to discipline capital, to take charge of the affairs of society. I'll speak at length later on about this particular question. But here it indicates that the exploitation of the people by capital continues unabated, almost at the same level as that of the United States. And yet, the United States is one of the most developed countries in the world in terms of infrastructure, resources, and everything else. So it is in this regard that we have to build the capacity of the state, to build public economy, and for the state to lead interventions on behalf of the people. These capitalist corporations do not account to anybody, and yet they want to play a major role in determining the policy of government. It is in this regard that we have also seen the working class living under situation of crime, a crime that has gone out of control. The principal driver, Comrade President, of crime in society, the principal, not only, but the main and principal driver of crime in society is capitalism. In the capitalist capitals like Europe, they counter that by making sure that every single street is monitored by the security police. That's why there's peace in Europe in terms of general crime. But in our case, where we have no such capabilities, crime becomes a crisis, particularly for women and children in our society. But the source of it is capitalism. So the state has to find a way in which it disciplines capital so that all the social ills that capital creates responsibility for. The state can't just take responsibility on behalf of some institution or some entity that creates problems for society. Of course, comrades, we have therefore to create programs on our own and not say we will wait for the defeat of capitalism before we defeat crime and before we defeat gender-based violence. We need to fight gender-based violence, correct people who are doing wrong to others in our communities by reorganizing ourselves. That is why one of the things that, as I recognize Comrade Banyaza, we've got crime wardens here amongst us. Comrade President, the communities are beginning to enjoy life in our townships here in Gauteng. When I visited the family of Comrade Kinsibia after his passing, just after we parked 2 cars, 2 crime wardens just arrived from Norway. They want to see that where we are going, the community is safe. But when Comrade Banyaza launches this program, who's the first person to attack him? The DA. They say you won't have the money to do it. Stop this particular program. Because they want us to have our communities unsafe and the ANC to be seen as failure. So it is in this regard that we have supported this initiative by Comrade Banyaza. And we are saying other provinces can learn from this important example. And one thing that also Comrade Banyaza has done was to integrate former liberation veterans from across the board to join in the fight against crime as crime wardens in our community. But comrades, taking a cue from Joe Slovo, learning from him, Comrade President, we know the role that he played, which was vital in the resistance against apartheid. His brilliance and theoretical clarity and contributions that shaped our revolutionary movement and its path. Particularly, for instance, in his seminal work, the South African Working Class and the National Democratic Revolution, he further elaborated the inseparable bond between national liberation and class struggle, and argued that the defeat of apartheid was only the first step towards the social transformation of society. And his commitment to gender equality was equally revolutionary. He equally appreciated that the source of unequal power relations in society is capitalism. Even patriarchy itself, the essence of patriarchy, is a product of capitalism. In other words, the unequal power relations between men and women is a fundamental product of capitalism. So that is why even in Europe, the most, or in America, wherever, these countries with over 200 years of liberation, they still have women oppressed because of the capitalist system that they are pursuing in those countries. Of course, Comrade President, when we look at the current problems that we are confronted with as the African Communist Party, including the challenges facing our revolution, we always summon the will of the people like Joe Slovo, their intellectual capabilities, because we learn from the same pot. Let me just say this. I was saying to Comrade Dada, we will find time to talk. But I want to address from this podium the comrades who are leading the municipality in Sidibei, in the Val. Comrade President, if you ask your team to drive you to Sebokeng today, you will be shocked by the deterioration of that particular township. It's led by our comrades. It's unacceptable. Whatever, it doesn't matter which route you use. It's not passable. It's not, you can't enter Sebokeng proper. It has been like that for the past 6 years. Now, these are the conditions that are afflicting even other municipalities across the board in our country. At the same time, we now have a Minister of Copter saying he's going to cut public works programs. That were a major intervention to alleviate the crisis in our local municipalities. We are opposed to that fundamentally as a Communist Party. We'll say something about this question later on in the main issue. But of course, Comrade President, we have seen both progress and regression. In other words, progress and reversals in economic development of our country. In economic terms, we can say that progress has been very slow and even reversing, largely because the democratic state is gradually withdrawing from the economy in favor of private capital. This has led to stagnation in the lives of our people. We have characterized, Comrade President, in joining Comrade Slovo on theorizing the moment to appreciate what we call the national grievance of South Africa today. We characterize that as lack of change for the majority of our people. In other words, lack of economic change has now become a major national grievance of our people. That's a new analysis from South African Communist Party. We are joining Lengalakata Slovo. In this regard, Comrade President, there are many factors leading to this. Part of colonial factors, apartheid oppression, capitalist domination of the economy, and their ruthless exploitation of the workers and so forth. But fundamentally, the neoliberal policy that is pursued by government. This gives imperialist forces stranglehold on our economy. And we believe that, Comrade President, imperialism today is undergoing a terminal period of crisis. Ngamanye amazwe, imperialism iyahlikizeka, iyashwa nthena yamakapitali lefatshe kabophara. So when imperialism is disintegrating, we should not be strengthening it. We have seen, for instance, the significant role, just the point that we appreciated, and I also told you this personally, the position you took on Israel as South African government in support of the Palestinian people and revolution. That position brought huge changes across the world. It shook the world powers. You know, when we took that decision, I said, this is our president. We want you to take such decisions on economic changes, on the living conditions of our people. A position of similar nature. You can do it, Comrade President. You will have our support when we do this and take over the economy. You cannot preside as president over a poor people. And capital amasses all the riches of our country for themselves and not for the majority of our people. So it is in this regard that when we look at the economic exclusion of the majority, the ownership of and control of the economy in our country remains dominated by a tiny capitalist minority who are largely white and male. You know, we're talking about Joe Slovo, that this white capitalist also hated. They hated him because he was a revolutionary and because he was a communist. But he was a non-racial, he had a non-racial character. He fought for all humanity. That is why he was disgusted after he led the trade union strike, only to find that white workers benefited more than black workers. So when we say and point out the fact that capital today remains in the hands of a white minority who are recalcitrant to change, who do not want to change, they say we are racist. We cannot be racist for pointing out the problems in society. Even that if that problem particularly is racial. We have always appreciated as South African Communist Party, through our analysis of colonialism of a special type, that fundamental one of our problems in South Africa is a racial problem. It's equally a gender problem, patriarchal problem, as well as a capitalist problem. All of these problems, Comrade President, have not been fundamentally resolved. That is why we have to act with speed as a movement to deal with domestic capital, particularly that continues the legacy of colonialism and apartheid build on super exploitation of the majority of our people and continue to oppress the majority in our country. The people cannot enjoy freedom when they are oppressed like this. It is in this regard, Comrade President, that we must appreciate that capitalism itself generates these inequalities that we talk about, including poverty and unemployment in our society. The democratic state cannot resolve these matters unless it confronts capital. So in other ways, you see, we follow the United States in many instances at the level of policy on how they take decisions. We even are saying that the United States is democratic. Those guys, they are not democratic. Just a couple of days ago, Biden, the president of the US, on the 2nd of January, he signed some decrees. For instance, stopping the Japanese company to buy Nippon Steel in the US. He stopped this deal. It's a multi-billion dollar investment program. He stops it because he says, no, this is going to make America subservient to Japan on steel. Despite that, these are capitalist countries. So he has the decree to do certain things. When he stops this deal, already processed and finalized, it's a deal in the private sector. He interferes and stops the deal. So the American president leads by decrees. There's no democracy there. In our case, we don't have those decrees. The capacity that we have is the voting majority of our people. And when they have given us that mandate, we must effectively utilize that mandate. Here is another analysis, Comrade President. This analysis, I will read it in full. I will not talk to it. This analysis talks to the structural injustices that have shaped not only but a historical and ongoing class struggle in our country, which have deep racial and gender dimensions, and have further entrenched the economic and social oppression of the majority by a minority in race, class, and gender dimensions. This, Comrade President, has led to the situation where the political will of the political class, if you like, I use this thing for the media purposes, not as an ideological orientation. The political class have to understand that this situation facing our people have to be reversed. You cannot do it if the people who are joining you in government, their intention is to decapitate, to destroy the working class. The Minister of Basic Education, they are retrenching 2,400 teachers in the Western Cape, just one province. They are not retrenching this from Model C schools, if you like. These are schools that are largely in the suburbs. They are retrenching this in the working class communities. There's going to be a huge devastation on this. The same as this retrenchment of workers above 50 or 55. Let's take it as the Communist Party, Comrade President. Every South African worker deserves the right to work. This is articulated fully in the Freedom Charter. And we should not accept any government, and I'll talk to you about this in private. There's another minister that I know has said to some of the comrades in senior management that we are cutting them off above 55 from within the ranks of the movement. We should not be accepting that kind of a thing as a movement committed to job creation and employment. So it is in this regard that, for instance, this situation can be reversed with a political will and not with reasons why things cannot be done differently. But comrades, the difficult situations will be normalized and continue and not be reversed. If South African politics remain detached from society, driven by the aloofness of the political elites who have become compradorial. By compradorial we mean working for foreign interests through domestic capital, by embedding their interest. So it's a situation where political elites grab political power and use it for tenders and deals with international capital and never look for the interest of the masses as a whole. This analysis, Comrade President, is deep for us, and we think it's a major crisis facing the liberation movement today. Comrade Slovo, for instance, when we join in further, we will say the political elite in this country has stolen the people's politics and the political dividend of democracy in our country. I use this question to be relevant to the media in terms of understanding what we are talking about. The political dividend in this country is being stolen by the political elite, and this has generated a strong public resentment to politics and political participation, as demonstrated in the recent elections by our people. Of course, the political elite themselves have further surrendered politics to capital and to use political office through the bourgeois policies of neoliberalism to impose more capitalism. In this regard, we can never resolve problems of society. Yes. It is in this regard, Comrade President, that monopoly capital for us as the Communist Party remains the primary source of the problem, and we must deal with it. If we allow it to dominate, as it is the case now, that it is almost taking responsibility for politics in our country, responsibility for economic direction, they pronounce it the way they want, they don't respect the fact that we've got a democratically elected government. We will lose relevance in political office as a liberation movement. And this worrying situation, Comrade President, of excluding the majority from the role in the economy and its economic dividends stands in direct contradiction to the national imperative of transforming South Africa into a truly non-racial, non-sexist society and our democracy. You can see even here, we are celebrating Comrade Joe Slovo, a white revolutionary. We cannot attract enough young white persons. Where is the white youth, for instance? So this is a question that we also need to ask ourselves. As we are constructing this society on a non-racial basis, we seem to be the only ones committed to this task. Others are not committed to it. So we need to question ourselves and to rebuild ourselves in the name of Comrade Joe Slovo, to build our non-racial character as a liberation movement. But Slovo has always affirmed the superiority of socialism over the barbarism of capitalism. That he never failed to do. It is in this regard that when he wrote his seminal piece, As Socialism Failed, he confronted challenges faced by the socialist movement worldwide, particularly after the fall of the Soviet Union. But he called, in the same breath, a fundamental return to the principles of and foundations of Marxism-Leninism, and his vision for a non-racial, non-sexist, and democratic society towards socialism remains steadfast in our case. Today, Comrade President, the biggest crisis we face in our society, economic crisis, is that capitalism, which is the primary problem, has now captured the economic ideology of government. And when we say this, Comrade President, is not personal, but capital driving the ideology of neoliberalism, which says, because neoliberalism's function is that you don't need a state per se, you need corporations. That is why they don't see any problem to cut jobs when the movement is committed to job creation. One of the manifestos of the African National Congress, the previous one, was even talking about employing almost 50,000 community development workers and healthcare workers in our communities, particularly in preparation to roll out the national health insurance. But neoliberal forces are hell-bent to reverse this trajectory because for them, that's not profitable. For us, capital also says in many instances, they will tell you that we invest in our people. Our most investment is our people. When they lie, they only need the skills of the people to make them more profit. The state, the public sector, must truly invest in the people. And investment in the people is to guarantee people's health and to guarantee them jobs. Therefore, we need to deal with neoliberal structural reform ideology that is now characterizing key thinking within government, particularly now with the GNU that includes the reactionary DA, a party opposed to the National Democratic Revolution and even to socialism. While this direction is not new, Comrade President, and we've always been opposing it, particularly this of the ideological position of the DA, it is important to indicate that essentially the elite factoring is not going to take this country any forward. That is why when we became agitated as the Communist Party, and I think one other thing, Comrade President, is that leaders of the alliance have to get used to how I speak. I speak like this all the time when I get into the podium. It's not anger, Comrade President. On my part, just so that you know. Capital, the DA in particular, its main intentions, they have never hidden it, Comrade President. They continue to say it in many respects. We monitor them every single day. They say their mission remains to destroy the African National Congress. Now, we are simply saying, you know, when Oliver Tambo gave our comrades in Frelimo a message through Samora Machel, when they were engaging with the apartheid regime towards signing the Nkomati Accord, he said to the ANC, to Samora Machel and the Frelimo comrades, please don't hug the hyena, because the hyena eats you and your bones. They finish you off. The DA and other forces that we are hugging in the GNU are hyenas that are going to finish us off as a movement. That is why, politically, just as the year starts, they begin to regurgitate, to rebuild themselves, to say they must meet again the forces of the Moonshot Pact. They are preparing themselves on how to weaken us further. We in the South African Communist Party will not allow our movement to be destroyed by reactionary forces and we sit down and do nothing about it. We will fight them to the tilt. Therefore, we fully reject neoliberalism in its entirety. And we also believe that we have mechanism to make interventions, both from a perspective of fiscal policy, which is the finance policy, and from a perspective of monetary policy, which is the money policy driven by the Reserve Bank. The positions that are there were taken by individuals. We can also change them as a liberation movement. In that way, we can have the levers of finance in our hands. We can create systems of finance in our hands that can respond to the challenges facing our people. Not only leave that to the existing economy without interfering with it. And therefore, we continue to support the rolling out of the National Health Insurance, as well as the rolling out of the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act. And this one, we are going to pay special attention to Minister Warube, because she has said, according to the DA, they want her to roll out all these regulations for as far as possible. We are even prepared to take her to court for speedy implementation of this Better Act that we have signed, and we appreciate that you went ahead and signed it. We must indicate, Comrade President, we were unhappy when we were feeling that you were having the pressure without talking to us and giving these reactionary forces more time. Now that you have signed it, she must lead in the implementation of this and not stemming this thing through regulations. We also believe, Comrade President, that COCTA must stop this program to retrench workers, particularly taking away over 225,000 community work program, workers who are in this work program. This will have devastating impact on our communities currently who do not have enough income, or majority do not even have income. We say this will be a callous betrayal of the ANC's own manifesto, supported by the allies in the recent 2024 May elections. Because that manifesto spoke about creating 2.4 million work opportunities through public employment programs. So this is a critical program. But the people in government that we are colluding with are seeking to reverse all of these interventions. We also are calling, Comrade, that instead of having these retrenchments, we must create capabilities to create more jobs through the state. The state, Comrade President, part of the national dialogue that we'll be participating in as a Communist Party is to call for the government to open the dialogue about the national debt of the country, so that we can use the resources that we have to create jobs and make people to meet their own livelihoods. Towards conclusion, Comrade President, and all of you comrades, we are dealing with the question of the working class representation, the crisis of the working class representation in our country. This question relates to the state of our economy, the state of our people, as well as the crisis that the working class finds itself in. It is in this regard that the Communist Party decided to participate in the coming local government elections in 2026. This task, comrades, is not the intention to weaken any force of the alliance. On the contrary, our intention is to strengthen the alliance. Yes, in order to strengthen the alliance, we cannot be outside observers when the situation is getting bad and very bad for our people. So we are entering this space. We are not the enemies of the African National Congress. I just highlighted to you, we only have one member, my dear Dr. Bengeza, the only one who's not a member of the African National Congress. So the dual membership continues. We are not ending the alliance. What we are simply saying is that the political landscape necessitates that in order to defend the National Democratic Revolution and to regain the strength as a revolution, to confront capital, to bring back the economy to the hands of the people, the Communist Party has to strengthen our allies through standing on our own. This is very important, Comrade President, because at the same time, you know, we've had the discussion for over 22 years on our efforts to achieve reconfiguration of the alliance. This has not happened. We've been patient enough, Comrade President, on this matter. We think we can strengthen and reconfigure the alliance practically. Today, if truth be told, Comrade President, you know it very well. You know executive authority. In terms of influence on government, the DA has more influence than the Communist Party. They have direct representation in cabinet. We don't have. So that's the difference. Yes, we don't have, in a sense, we have got comrades who are members of the Communist Party who are in cabinet through the direction of the African National Congress. None of them takes responsibility and accountability from us. Not a single one. So we have given our own to the movement. What more sacrifice can we do? We have done that. When we realize that now this sacrifice is disadvantaging our people, we have to find a new mechanism in which we can change the living conditions of our people. We are not interested in many other things. Myself in particular, I have put it up clearly. I do not want any position in government. We are not doing this because we want positions in government. No. We want to change the living conditions of the masses on the ground for the better. We want to tackle capital. We want to force the state to make the state see that it can tackle capital and serve the people wholeheartedly. Not just to come and be in office and live in office. No, it shouldn't work like that. It is in this regard, Comrade, that when we are exercising our independence as a Communist Party, Comrade Duncan spoke about this question. I won't go into the detail. We are an independent organization. We are interdependent as well as the allies. I fully agree with you, Comrade President. We need the alliance. I told you at one point, many of my comrades, I've got a comrade here from the Central Committee. He's from Mkonto Sizwe, Comrade Tebo Kopadi. He's one of our lead drafters. I always say to him, Comrade Tegza, the problem with you is that you think you are in an MK camp. Even when you are drafting for the Communist Party, you draft from the perspective of the African National Congress. No, now we are drafting from a communist perspective. We trained him in the Soviet Union. He's clear on that as well. Make no mistake. He's one of our brilliant intellectuals. The economy, what he calls Nala, we can bring any other economist. They can't contest him on ideas. Practical ideas on how to improve our communities. We are working with him and other communities to make our communities self-reliant. This program of self-reliance of our communities, comrades, it's a task of all party structures. It's not a task of the Central Committee alone or Comrade Tebo. People must not say if Tebo has not arrived with this program in their communities, they can't roll out this program. We are working on this program in our townships, in the villages, to make sure that our people are self-reliant. That's one fundamental task of the revolution. The revolution must not shift people into the hands of capital that further exploit them. It must save them from exploitation by capital. Of course, comrades, we need to build a part of the working class, a strong part of the working class, in order for us to participate effectively in the 2026 local government elections. These elections, comrades, many are pitting us against the African National Congress. Even some inside the Communist Party are getting confused. No, we are contesting political power of society. We have just indicated the crisis of representation of the working class in governance, because majority of the people stayed away from the elections than those who participated in the elections. So we are entering that space clearly as a Communist Party. We do not want opportunists who will be moving from one area to the other, dividing our movement in the name of the Communist Party. We are participating in these elections independently for the working class, not for our own jackets. That's how it's going to be. We will shape South African politics differently. The march to socialism is now starting in earnest. This march is unmitigated. In other words, it's as clear as the daylight. We are on a war path. We have launched a mass battle against capital. And if the state and the democratic state aligns itself with capital, it will fight against itself, against the masses. That is why rudimentary objects of democracy will be created in our communities, Comrade President. We are starting one, which we hope one day, when it's possible, you will find the possibility to go in Tegezwe, where President Mandela once lived, to start a rudimentary concept of people's power, wherein constitutional democracy and people's democracy are allied and the people can look after themselves. Because there's been a new stage of extortion, where a criminal gang has gone amok, it's raping women and children, and people have even abandoned their houses. So we cannot accept that thing in a situation where democracy, under democracy, the only thing we say you must respond to is to say, go and report it to the police. We are rebuilding the rudimentary structures of people's power to fight people's democracy on the ground. This will be part and parcel of how we are going to rebuild local governments, for instance. But of course, in this regard, we'll be building popular power of the masses and building more broad fronts and community fronts in our realities. Of course, in this regard, comrades, we are also integrated with the international situation. We want to say a few words in this regard. The first is that we want to call on the United States of America to end its illegal blockade of Cuba and the occupation of Guantanamo Bay, and to remove Cuba from the so-called list of countries sponsoring terrorism. How is it possible that Cuba can sponsor terrorism? Only the US that compiles this list unilaterally, without any democratic or multilateral mandate, say so. It is a pretext to maintain, for instance, imperialist aggression, including continued illegal sanctions against Cuba outside the framework of the United Nations. We are saying to the USA they must stop undermining the United Nations itself and start implementing resolutions of the UN that they always oppose but are supported overwhelmingly by majority countries to end the illegal blockade on Cuba. We continue to condemn the imperialist regime of the United States on how it makes the people of Cuba to suffer for the choice of socialism, as they do with the people of North Korea for their choice of socialism. We strongly denounce equally the autocratic regime of Swaziland for its continued human rights violation and repression of democracy and communist activists. And in this regard, we pledge our solidarity with the oppressed people of Swaziland and the people of Swaziland and make the call for democratization to take place and for the release of political prisoners and the return of political exiles and transition to democracy. At the same time, we are also highlighting the sufferings by the people of Western Sahara under Morocco's occupation. They are having a massive hardship, and their hardship, which is quite immense, is compounded by the complicity of imperialist forces like France and Spain. Together with Morocco, these two countries want to stop at nothing to maintain their oppression and control and the dispossession of the resources of the people of Western Sahara. We say they must stop the exploitation of the natural resources of Western Sahara and its political economy. And equally, we call for our people to extend a hand of friendship, including the South African government, with the people of Sudan, who are in a war because of elite interests to control the wealth of that particular society. We equally call for the immediate end to this war in Sudan, which is disproportionately affecting women and children, and majority of the people are now displaced, including men. We also, as the SACP, reaffirm our solidarity with Frelimo movement in Mozambique and the people of Mozambique. Once again, we congratulate Frelimo on their recent electoral victory in Mozambique. We strongly condemn any attempt to destabilize Mozambique. Imperialist-backed forces are often involved in such destabilization. Even this chap of Podemos in Mozambique, who's creating himself an independent, at one point is not independent, this chap. He's literally a reactionary, comes from Renamo. So we must decode him fully. At one point he was a candidate of Renamo, a reactionary force that colluded with imperialists for the oppression of the people of Mozambique. So while we respect the people of Mozambique to resolve their internal problems, our solidarity with the people of Mozambique and Frelimo in particular remains unwavering. We equally congratulate our comrades in Namibia of SWAPO for their electoral victory, and we express our ongoing support towards fundamental change in Namibia. We also welcome the shift towards the left in Botswana with the Umbrella for Democratic Change's victory. The Umbrella for Democratic Change is an alliance inclusive of, among others, the Botswana National Front, which is our ally. We welcome the recent announcement by the newly elected president of Botswana, Comrade Maboko, of progressive policies on poverty reduction in that diamond-rich country. We wish him well in his tenure as the president of Botswana. We also want to pledge our solidarity with the Sahel region in their struggle for full independence from France and imperialist domination. This must be viewed, Comrade President and others, all of you, Comrade, as part of the second phase of the African Revolution. What is happening in the Sahel region? Imperialism is disintegrating. Even recently in Senegal and the Ivory Coast, the French were now leaving that territory because they were controlling it, including controlling its military. The African countries have never really tasted independence. We have now reached a stage where we cannot accept imperialism to continue to treat us in this way. We stand equally in solidarity with the people of Venezuela, the people of Nicaragua and Bolivia and others in Latin America against U.S. imperialist aggression. We support and will be represented at the inauguration of President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela in the next few days. We equally want to condemn the interference by the U.S. government and the attempt to destabilize Venezuela because of the U.S. policy of regime change. Our solidarity with the people of Palestine remains firm against apartheid Israel settler regime's occupation and genocide. And we stand with the axis of resistance across the Middle East against Israeli aggression and U.S. imperialism. We also, Comrade, want to express our continued solidarity, a firm one for that matter, with the people of Palestine for the freedom of historic Palestine and against the expropriation of Palestinian land by the occupying apartheid Israeli regime. Together with its autocratic imperialist beggar, the U.S., the apartheid Israeli settler regime wants to stop at nothing to maintain its oppression of the Palestinian people and exploit their land and natural resources, especially, including offshore gases resources. That is offshore gas resources. We equally call for the release of Dr. Wissam Abu Safia, director of Kamal Adwan Hospital in Gaza, which was the only remaining functioning hospital in Gaza, has been bombed by the apartheid Israeli regime. Of course, we are calling on solidarity of our people, the people of South African people, and particularly from Communist Party members and our liberation movement, with the people of Yemen, who are equally under bombardment from the United States of America and from Israel. They are destroying Sana'a and the country of Yemen on the basis of its own independence. We are pledging our solidarity with the people of Yemen, as we continue to do with the people of Syria and Lebanon in their fight against foreign occupation and terrorism. And we call on the world working class and progressive forces to strengthen the rising multipolar movement for a just, peaceful world order free from imperialist oppression. We welcome equally the rise of China as a significant force in global multipolar world system to create a just world order system. This is very important for us and for progressive forces. Equally, the Russian anti-imperialist response in the war provoked by NATO countries in Ukraine is another vital indicator of the shift towards global multipolarity. Even just a few weeks ago, Secretary of State of the U.S. Blinken admitted in public that the Americans sent armaments, missiles and everything 5 months before the special military operation of Russia into Ukraine, to prepare Ukraine to attack Russia and to keep this war going for as long as they want. So we're saying the emperor is naked and has been exposed, the emperor of the USA. Russia, on the one hand, has demonstrated its capability to stand out against the US-led imperialist collective West. Yes, it is the US-led imperialist collective West that provoked this war in Ukraine, through, among others, a coup, a movement towards its expansion, as well as targeting ultimately China. This emerged as part of the imperialist agenda to build a totalitarian control of the global resources and the economy. And I think in closing, Comrade, from our own Congress, we have outlined some key tasks for all our members. The most immediate task of the working class today is to free itself from the cocoon of compradorial politics
characterized by elite-driven representative democracy. In other ways, we are now entering a platform of building people's democracy. We need to embrace the agenda for transformative change of our material living condition for the better by freeing also our own revolution from the cocoon of colonial entrapment development trajectory. In other ways, we need to resolve the national grievance today, which is to drive change to improve the lives of our people. That is to drive economic change. In doing so, we must tackle capital head on. It is in this regard, Comrade, that also when we participate in this national dialogue, we must shape it and not allow capital to go and shape the national dialogue and then give us a project that the working class did not shape. We will be actively involved in shaping this national dialogue engagement on the ground. And we call on our branches to refine their strategies to implement our program, the South African Struggle for Socialism, and to prepare ourselves for effective participation in the coming local government elections. All our members must embrace organizational renewal framework of the Communist Party. Its three pillars is serve the struggle, serve the people first, serve the revolution first, serve the Communist Party first. So in other words, selfless service to the people is the key theme of our task going forward. We must build party structures in all communities to safeguard the interests of the working class and to give strength to the struggle for self-reliance of our community. The revolution, comrades, belongs to the people, and they are the ultimate barometer if that revolution is working or not. We shall be judged by our deeds on the ground, and ours is to build socialism on the ground. As we said, it is either socialism or barbarism. It is in this regard that we are going to make sure that our revolution is fully defended and is on a correct trajectory. We are not in any way seeking to weaken the revolutionary forces, but on the contrary, to strengthen them. Amanda! Long live the alliance, long live! Forward to socialism, forward! Thank you very much, comrade.